As the last step, we're going to review what we've done and how we can bring it all together. I've got nodes here for geometry setup, simulation, and post-simulation fixes. Starting in geometry setup, well, we brought in our original animation and we unpacked it. Then we made sure to blast off sections we weren't going to be colliding with, subdivided it to give us some more detail as we prepared it for the simulation. Then we went ahead and checked which sections of the body would be intersected, and then went through a for loop to actually cut away that section of the body. Smoothed it out, added some normals back, and this would become the geometry we use for our simulations. It's important to try to make this efficient as you're working, so try to cache out steps that you can. So for instance here, I've gone ahead and saved an Alembic file after I've done all this carving away so that I can work with it next without having to wait for any delay. After we cut this away, we take that geometry and we bring it into our simulation section. So first I'm going to bring in clothes. I split that off into the dress and the pants. The dress, we went ahead and remeshed it. We made a group that we can attach to the legs, and we made a point group near the shoulders so that we can attach that to the body as well. We brought in the body that we did in the first step. We also bring in a body without the head for some collisions, and we point deform the pants against that. After we point deform the pants, just did an SDF push to make sure geometry wasn't going inside the body, and made a group so that we could blast off the hip. Took that and we merged it with the body. Now this let us simulate, making sure that the dress would collide with the body as well as the pants. And again, save that off in an Alembic file. We could also take the pants and export an Alembic file, but that calculates pretty quickly, so it might not be necessary. Then after we have our simulation, we went over to our post-simulation, brought in the body, brought in the dress, and did some time blend and blend shapes to get rid of jitter, did some more point deforming to keep the shoulder straps on the body, and pushed the geometry out with the SDF. Now I've made one change here. I've taken the pants in, and especially if you're working in production, you may need to use the original geometry they gave you, not this remeshed geometry. So I'm going to use a point deform node and basically point deform the original pants with my fake simulated pants. And that will give me that geometry. Now because this geometry might have slightly different contours than the simulated one, I'm merging that in with the body, and I'm actually using both of those objects as an SDF push for the dress to make sure that the dress sits outside of our original geometry of the pants. I've also colorized the body and the pants so that it's easier to make sure we've gotten it. So now I can look at both and it'll be really easy to see if I've missed something. For instance, if I bypass this, it's a lot quicker to see that points are coming through. After I have all that, I'm going to do another point deform and take in the original geometry of the dress and point deform that with all of the work we've done with the simulation and the post-sim fixes. Now this step depends on exactly what your input geometry is. So maybe you're using just the original dress, or maybe you need some more detail here. Because as I point deform, we obviously don't really have enough detail to capture all the curves we did. So we might add a subdivide before we do point deform. This of course depends on what you're outputting. If you're in a large studio and it's required that the incoming geo stays the same point count, then you probably can't use this subdivision. However, if you can make changes to it, then that subdivision will work fine. So at the end, we take our body, we take the pants, we take the dress, we merge them all together, and that's our final geometry output. That brings us to the end of this course. The main things to take away are what I mentioned at the beginning. Good input is going to equal good output. So you want to prepare the geometry of the body as well as the geometry of the clothing and use those to your advantages to help make the simulation. You also want to save time where you can by point deforming if that's possible and doing any post-simulation fixes that are going to mean you don't need to go back necessarily and re-simulate everything. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll end it here.